What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Major Mixtape podcast. I'm your host, Jason. Hope you're doing well whenever and wherever you are watching or listening to this. Now, coming up in Toronto on November 17th are the Crtv Awards. And here to talk about them is singer-songwriter Kari Lyn Blacquiere. Kari Lyn, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. Now,
it's a pleasure.
For our listeners who don't know what the Crtv Awards are, what are they?
Yes, so basically, we're a student-run label, Confidential Records, and we are part of the Harris Institute. So we have been working really hard this whole semester organizing this show. It's showcasing 7 local artists from Toronto, and we made this more than just a show. Since things are just kind of opening up now here in Toronto, we decided to make it live and live streams. So you can actually go to the show in person, or if you're more comfortable, you can watch it online. And what better way to bring music back than to make an award show? If you come, who knows, you could even be a winner of an award. It's going to be a great time. We're donating all proceeds to the Unison Fund, which is a great charity as well. They support music and mental health and funding to struggling artists.
Now, that's a big thing, too, because when you think about it, the last year and a half has been, for lack of a better term, decimating for some musicians, especially on, the independent level, and the fact that they haven't been able to go out and play gigs. They haven't been able to kind of go out and do the things to get their music out there. So, why did you guys choose? I mean, I guess it's an obvious reason why you guys chose the Unison Fund, but why, choose this event to make sure that they are the ones that get the money?
We just thought it was a great way to kind of end our school year and just make sure that we bring awareness to something that we were all really passionate about. Most people in my team were all musicians, and we've all kind of navigated the whole past year of mental health and not being able to do live gigs. And we just thought it was such an important charity to support.
Now, through the pandemic and over the last few months, you guys have actually put together a few live streams showcasing some of the musicians that are going to be performing at the Crtv Awards. But it was all live streamed because, of course, you couldn't get out there and perform live in front of people. The fact that this is going to be not just live streamed, but at the supermarket, which is a club here in Toronto, with an audience, how stoked are you to kind of get back on stage in front of people? And how important is to have that dual stream live and live stream?
Yeah, so first off, it's so exciting to be playing live. I am actually also the host of the event. So this is my first ever hosting gig, and I'm really excited. I'm a storyteller by heart, so I feel like I could naturally take over the role of a host as well. And I think it's really important to have that live stream option right now because people still aren't quite comfortable going out, and capacities obviously aren't as high as they normally would be, as well as now we have the option to live stream. A lot of us aren't originally from I'm originally from Prince Edward Island. So we're not all originally from Toronto. We have a student from the Yukon. We have, myself again from Prince Edward Island. There's a few people from Hamilton. So just being able to offer it to those people who can't commute into the city is just even better. It's a welcomed bonus.
Now, as an independent musician, being able to have those live streams out there. You mentioned yourself that you kind of grew, you were born and raised in PEI. In that, how important is it for those live streams to be able to broaden the audience for musicians who probably don't have the ability to tour right now?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Of course, it's never going to be live shows, but being able to just keep your fan base engaged and just continue to grow. In a way, things are more accessible now more than they've ever been. And there's a lot of really cool platforms coming out from that you can kind of use to engage with your audience. So I think it is really important. Mind you, there's never, again, always back to live, but hopefully with these live streams and keeping people engaged, that once things kind of open up further, then you'll have that expanded fan base, and then you can go to those places and just find your new fans, I guess.
Now, some of those initial, showcase live streams that you guys were doing through the pandemic, how well received were those?
They were really well received. We were actually really fortunate. So basically, I'll give a tiny bit more background to Confidential Records. It kind of changes hands every 8 months. So as you do the program at Harris Institute, we're all in a music management program. You organize both an open mic and a showcase. So every time the new semesters come in, they will also do the same thing. So it kind of passes hands every single time. So our group, we organized the open mic a little while ago, and we actually broke a record between everyone. Didn't matter if it was live streamed or live performances. We broke the record of most money made. So doing that live stream actually opened our audience hugely. People who never could have came before got to come, and we hired a videographer that was amazing. His name's Devin Lauren, and he did such a good job putting everything together that it just was successful in every way it could have been.
Now, for someone who was working behind the scenes for a live stream, part of the perception, for musicians doing live streams is, you just sit there with a camera and a guitar and you're good to go. But as someone who is behind the scenes, there's a lot of logistics that goes into putting on a really good and good sounding show. So what were some of the things that went into those live streams?
Yeah, so we kind of each have our respective departments. So I was a head of strategic partnerships as well. As you know, in the music industry, everyone wears many hats. So that's another one of my many hats. So I was actually involved in finding the charities, finding sponsors. This current event's actually sponsored. Our major sponsors are Art House and Long and McQuaid. So thank you so much for their donations. And we have a whole list of other sponsors that you can check out on any of our socials or website. So there was that. We have a whole marketing plan there. We have an event planning that does all the logistics of actually getting the live stream running, which I'm not completely familiar of all the steps because I'm not the biggest and best at tech, but he's amazing. He just makes sure to get all those kinks out. Having good internet is really important. So make sure that there's no lagging and that everyone can enjoy the same experience. And there's tons, again, different platforms and everything you can use. Otherwise, there's also a live event planner. And the things I didn't know was the extra staff you need, now checking COVID vaccinations at the door, making sure everyone has their ID 19 plus, all those tiny, tiny, tiny details I never would have dreamed are being put into a live show, but everyone on the team has been great. And we're really excited. We think it's going to be a really successful event.
Now, of course, COVID has affected a lot of programs, and music management, I'm sure, is no different. What are some of the challenges that the past year and a half have presented to you while being at the Harris Institute and putting together these kind of events? Yeah,
so when I first started at Harris Institute, we were supposed to be in person. We were a private college, and there was actually only 7 of us in the class. So we were all good to go. We followed the rules. And then a week in, the rules changed, and we got sent back to our houses, had to do the school from online all of a sudden. So we ended up doing 2 semesters online, which was crazy. I got to know all of my classmates through Zoom chats and Instagram chats, which was a really weird feeling. And we're really kind of close because of it, because we had no one else to kind of turn to, which was a really unique experience. But it was definitely hard. Staring at a screen for 12 hours a day is not the best for your eyes or your brain, but we kind of all got it through it together, and we kind of just adapted where we could. A lot of the teachers were really forgiving if for some reason we either had to take a break and get up and look somewhere else, or if we had to miss a class because it was just a little bit too much. They were all really understanding, and we all kind of just worked together to adapt as we went. This final semester has been in person, which has been even better since we were online. The planning of the actual event, having to plan the open mic on Zoom was really hard because you can't quite get those interactions. Whereas if we see each other at school every day, we can be like, oh yeah, by the way, I did this. Whereas it's all kind of, you have to get it all out in the meeting when you're only on Zoom. But we kind of just worked around it. We made sure to follow all the COVID protocols when we did our filming day. So we just kind of had a call for each artist. We did it at the school. They came in, recorded their set, and then they would kind of leave, and then the next would come, and we kind of just had limited people and followed all the rules. Got to add all those extra steps, unfortunately, but we just did everything we could to be safe and make sure that it still went smoothly and was a great event.
You have to think with an organization like the Harris Institute and having, a lot of musicians in the class, obviously being in person would probably lead to a lot of musical collaboration, just being able to jam together and that. Did any of that happen over Zoom, and how hard was it to be in this kind of program and yet still be isolated, having to take it at home?
Yeah, so definitely not as much collaboration as we would have liked. A few of our classes definitely encouraged collaboration, which was amazing. So we kind of got a chance to show each other our music, and we were definitely more supportive of the music that's already gone out. Maybe not so much collaborating, but making plans to collaborate definitely happened very often. And I'm working with some really cool people in my class and other students at the school in general right now. And I'm really excited for what's coming out. It's great because generally myself, I'm a folk rock artist, but now working with some of my new friends and classmates, they are leading me towards different genres I barely knew existed, like different dance tracks and R&B. I'm never quite going to be that artist, but it's great to be able to dabble in that and take influences from them and put it into my own work.
Now, let's talk about some of those artists, because as you mentioned earlier, there's going to be, if I remember correctly, 7 artists performing at the CRTV Awards. So who, aside from yourself, who's on deck?
Yes. So the first one is Devin Lauren. He is from Toronto. Amazing artist. I got the pleasure of working with him on, he's a producer as well. So I've been working with him a lot, and he's just multi-talented. Then there's Charlie Huncho. She's originally from Hamilton. She is got a song on the way that should be on social media, Spotify and all that really soon. We've got Kin Rose. He's another all-around man, producer, singer, songwriter, everything. He's from Toronto as well. Princess Malia, she is our representation of the Yukon. She as well, I think, has music coming out. And then we have 2 bands, Life Postmortem, which is a punk rock band, and Rhett Cohen. And they are all from Toronto as well.
Now, for yourself, you're performing, but you said you're also hosting the show. So as you're preparing for this, are you preparing differently? Because obviously it's one thing to go up and play those songs. It's another thing to go up there and be the MC for the evening.
Yeah, so I'm definitely preparing differently than I would with just a performance. I have to make sure that I, thank all the right people. I have to make sure that I get the right information. I think those are kind of the things that I'm navigating right now. I think it's also easier for me because I'm the one who was strategic partnerships, and I really helped with the marketing plan as well. So I really got to know the core of the event and our values and what we want to get out of the event. So I think that definitely eases the process and me feeling comfortable as the host. But in general, I think that I'm pretty good at talking. I'd like to think so anyway. So I think that it's going to go pretty smoothly, and I've got lots of stories, so I can always fill some time with one of my million stories.
Now, when it comes to Confidential Records, you mentioned that it's a student-run organization. So being a part of that for this semester, as you say, before you kind of do the handoff, what is being part of Confidential Records like?
Yeah, so it's amazing. And a part that I didn't mention is as we're doing the handoff, you actually get the opportunity to be an intern as well. So I have an intern and he's amazing. He's helped me organize a lot of this stuff in strategic partnerships. So it's a great way to like pass it off and get closer to people who aren't in your class, the other semesters, and be able to mentor them and get them ready to take over your job, which is amazing. It just kind of adds to our sense of family in the organization, and we get the opportunity to make something real. You know, when you're in school and you do all these amazing projects and work on all these amazing things, but not always you get the chance to actually execute it. With Confidential Records, we get to do it all ourselves from scratch. We get to find the venue, we get to find the artists, everything. And you really learn the amount of responsibility that you need, the amount of teamwork you need, everything to do, and then you actually get to see this hard work come to something real and enjoy the night. So it's just a great opportunity all around.
As we're getting closer to the event, what are you looking forward to most? The event finally getting here, or the end of the night when you finally made it through?
I think I'm just more excited for the event itself. I'm excited to finally see. I know there's a lot of stress coming up right now as we're finishing the final details, but I'm just excited to have it happening, especially with us not having been able to do live shows. And then I am excited to see how much money we actually get to raise for our amazing charity. We're like hoping to break more records. I hope so, because we're all really competitive. So I hope we do break another record, and it'll just be nice, even just to see everyone that comes, as we haven't been able to socialize that often.
Knowing at some point that night, there's going to come a final song and, metaphorical curtains will close. Is there a bittersweetness to, the finale of an event like this?
Oh, 100%. We just finished our final exams last week. So that was the first step in the final, like the bittersweetness of finishing school. And this last event is kind of the last hurrah of our time at Harris. So it's going to be a lot of fun, of course, but I definitely think it's going to get a little emotional at the end, especially because some of us won't be staying in Toronto. So we kind of won't be seeing each other again, but it's going to be a great way to end it for sure.
Now, for those who are interested in actually going to the show in person or to be able to stream the show, where can they get their tickets and how much does it cost?
Yes, so our tickets are up on Eventbrite. You can either search CRTV Awards on Eventbrite. You can also check out any of our socials, Confidential Records, and you can buy the tickets from the link in the bio there. If for some reason none of that works, we have actual physical tickets as well. You can either hit me up, hit anyone up that's involved in the event, and we can get you some actual physical tickets. And the price of the in-person is $20, and the online live stream is $10. We also sell raffle tickets for the online viewers, and they get a really cool prize from UR Collective. They're an amazing company who also supports music and mental health, so music therapy. And then on the night of the event, we'll also be selling in-person raffle prizes with some amazing raffle prizes. Trust me, I want to win them all. I'm definitely buying raffle tickets myself. I'm definitely going to pick my own name, I hope. No, I won't cheat. But yes, we have like records from the Beatles. We have a Edison sound system, which is amazing. We've got just a countless list. We have about 17 sponsors in total, and they've all been so gracious as to donate some items. So that will be there for sale at the event as well.
You're listening to the Major Mixtape Podcast. Our guest today, Kari Lyn Blacquiere, who will be hosting and performing at the CRTV Awards November 17th at the Supermarket here in Toronto. We're going to step away for a quick little second, but when we come back, we're going to learn a little bit more about Kari Lyn. You've heard it all before. Waste of film. Dumpster fire. How did this even get made? Train wreck. Total garbage. Snooze fest. Utterly painful. Worst film ever. But is it really? The show is called It's Not That Bad, and we dare to look at the lowest rated shows and movies and see only the good things. We're looking for A grades in B movies. It's Not That Bad. Listen now, wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to the Major Mixtape Podcast. Our guest today, singer-songwriter Kari Lyn Blacquiere, who will be hosting the Crtv Awards November 17th here in Toronto at the Supermarket. Now, Kari Lyn, let's talk about you and your music for a little bit. Your first album, Hit the Ground, came out in 2020, but then everything kind of stopped and went to a halt because, of course, the pandemic started. How much did that affect your ability to go out there and promote the album?
Yeah, so it definitely affected it a lot. I didn't quite get to promote it as much as I could. And I was also, because I was here in Toronto doing school, I couldn't actually go home to where I really wanted to do a CD release and everything. I did get the opportunity to do a Zoom CD release, which was a lot of fun. The restrictions in PEI were a bit less. So my mom had a bunch of people over and they had champagne and it was really cute. It was nice to be able to have that. But actually, because of everything going on, I decided to re-release my album, which actually comes out 2 days after the showcase. So November 19th, it's got a new look, a new order. There's some bonus material in there. So I'm super excited to actually get that second chance to represent it to the world. And yeah, I'm just really excited about it.
So being in Toronto, when the album comes out, but in your hometown in PEI, it was nominated for Loud Rock Recording of the Year at the Music PEI Awards. So how exciting was it to have that album be nominated? And how much did it suck not being able to be there for that?
So I cried when I found out. I was so excited. I did one of those, in the movies when they jump up on the bed and they cry and scream. That was me. And I wish someone recorded it because I was so excited. And B, I was so upset. I almost went back, did the quarantine and everything. But unfortunately, with my schooling, I had exams and we got permission to be there in person for exams. So I actually couldn't do it. If it would have been any other weekend, I would have went back home and quarantined into the whole thing. And I was offered the opportunity to actually play at the awards, which would have been another amazing thing. But I do know that with my new music coming out, hopefully I'll be nominated for another award and maybe even win an award one day. So I know that the opportunity will come again, but it was disappointing for sure.
When that new material comes out, because I remember in one of the live streams that you did for CRTV, you had mentioned that there was an EP coming out in 2021. So, obviously with new material on the way, is the hope to kind of get on the road and maybe go across Canada with it, or at least initially just even get out there?
Yeah, of course. I definitely want to do a tour of the East Coast and probably Ontario as well. Now that I'm starting to get the new music out there. Eventually, I would love to do a Canada-wide tour. I got to grow my fan base in those places a little bit bigger first, but definitely touring in my future.
Being part of the Harris Institute, you mentioned earlier that, you had artists that were kind of representative of across Canada. When it comes time for you to kind of get on the road and put that new music out there, does having those connections kind of make it easier to sit there and say, well, I know, Princess Millie is going to be up in Yukon, so maybe I can head up there. Maybe we can do a show together. Does it kind of give you that initial, flagpole in the ground saying, well, I know I can at least go there?
Yeah, of course. I know we all love supporting each other. Some of the students at Harris are definitely my number one fans. And I've had a few shows since things have been opening up and they come to every single one. So it's so great to have that community and to know that when I go to their places that they go, whether it be back to the Yukon or if they move across the world, I know that I'll be able to go there and connect with them.
Considering that you mentioned in your bio that, you went on a trip, I think it was to Thailand, and that kind of ended up being a 5-year long trip. Does the idea of going on the road to do a tour for your music seem less daunting because you spent that much time away?
I think so. It makes me more excited to be able to go on tour, I think, especially being locked at home for 2 years. I definitely love the idea of a tour. I never really made it to Europe either, so I would absolutely love to get the opportunity to go over to Europe and do some touring and finally get to explore that side of the world. And then as well, I've met so many people while traveling that I know, as we just discussed, if I went to England, I know so many people over there that would definitely come out and see my shows and I could go and visit them, or Germany or wherever it may be.
Now, that trip, you had mentioned that there's a lot of writing that went on while you were, out and about for 5 years. How much of that experience is reflected in the album Hit the Ground?
It's almost 100% reflected from that experience. A lot of my songs were written in different countries, which is really cool. I believe Hit the Ground was written in Costa Rica, Bones was written in Australia. Different songs were written in different countries, which was awesome. And I got the opportunity to work on a feedlot in Australia when I was living there and work with baby cows, nursing them back to health, which was super cool. But it was in the middle of nowhere. There was no internet. The closest grocery store was a half an hour drive away. It was us, a bunch of cows, and a bunch of land. But that really gave me the opportunity to sit down and write a lot of really good music because the nature was inspiring. I had a second to sit down and reflect on everything that I had experienced up until that point. And yeah, it was just an amazing opportunity.
Now, obviously, with your experience at the Harris Institute, with the different musicians and the classmates that you're working with, and basically being in isolation for a year and a half as far as, the pandemic goes, do you feel that all of that is reflecting on the new material that you're writing? And also, has it changed the way you look at the songs you wrote for Hit the Ground?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think there's a lot of my new music is definitely reflective of the pandemic and even just the new experiences that I've had at school, trying to do online classes and all of that. And it does give me a better idea of how the whole behind the scenes process works. I did realize in recording Hit the Ground that I had no clue what goes on behind the scenes. When I started recording Hit the Ground, I didn't even know if my songs were good. I kind of just booked the studio and was like, I just kind of want to see what it would sound like to have this professionally recorded. All I was going to do was an acoustic kind of thing to have for my personal use. But my co-producer, Remy, he was like, you know what? This is actually really good. Let me put some other stuff behind this and let me know what you think. If you want to do an album, there's definitely enough material there. So that's how that happened. And it wasn't really planned. It just kind of happened. Whereas this EP was a lot more strategically kind of put together. I'm working with some other amazing producers, Devin Lauren, the multi-talented, and Jonathan Gavin. They've been helping me a lot. And as they were both students of Harris as well, in the other program, the production program, they've kind of taught me so much about recording. And I've really been able to kind of get in there and actually not necessarily have more of a say of what goes on, but actually understand how to execute and make sure that the sounds that I want are getting there. So it's been all over a learning process.
You mentioned that obviously when you went into the studio to do Hit the Ground, it was very much like, okay, we're just going to lay these songs down and, make it an acoustic thing. How much does the studio and recording process change the song from when it's initially written to when, it's finally out the other end?
Yeah, it definitely changes a lot. It's always the base bones of the song are always the same. The rest of everything, it just adds that cherry on top. It really makes the sound come to life and just add that extra emotion. And you can, especially now, you can do so much in the studio, whether it be actual live instruments or instruments through like a MIDI setup or something, you can really add the coolest things and effects just to like really make that emotion come out in a song. And it just kind of, for myself, it's like everything that I was feeling when I wrote the song, adding those extra instruments and little things, it definitely just like made it come out even more.
As you get ready to get back on stage in front of actual people, is there a worry? I mean, we're not fully out of the pandemic yet. You know, we're almost there. We hope that we're almost there, but we're not fully there yet. Is there a worry about getting on stage and being in that live environment again?
I think we've been really cautious about making sure everything's planned and executed properly. So I'm not so much worried of doing that, just because I know that we've just done our best to make sure that we follow all protocol and make sure that it's safe for everybody.
Let's take a look at young Kari Lyn. What was it that made you want to pick up a guitar and start writing music?
So my whole family has kind of been, they've all kind of do music. My mom always played guitar. My uncle was always around playing shows. My sister's a musician as well. My dad, he played the radio, but he was always supportive of everything that we did. So it was kind of always there growing up. We're an Acadian family, so Acadians just loved to kind of get together and party. So we would always be together, box of oysters on the table, BYOB, instruments all around, and everyone and anyone who felt like it would just get up and sing a song. So I've kind of always been influenced that way. My grandfather was a storyteller, and he definitely influenced me in writing and telling stories while I was writing my music. Funny enough, when I was a teenager, I rebelled and refused to even sing in the shower. But then getting out and experiencing everything, traveling, kind of just brought that back out in me and realized that it actually is my passion. And I just decided to pursue it.
I do have to ask, how does one little trip turn into a 5-year journey? Do you just sit there and go, yeah, I'm not ready to come back yet?
Yeah, I definitely got bit by the travel bug, like all over. There was I just fell in love. I remember the first trip that I did was with an organization called Life Before Work. You kind of book with them. They organize the hotels and the transportation, and then you decide like what you want to do in each place. I remember walking into the airport in Bali in Indonesia and being so grateful that I had someone waiting at the airport. I was culture shocked, coming from small town Prince Edward Island, walking into this beautiful airport that looked like a temple. I did not know what to do. So I was so shocked with the culture, but I immediately fell in love. Everyone was just so kind, and there was so much to see. I got to do so much. Everything from bungee jumping to scuba diving to experiencing new cultures. I fell in love. And I got to also on that trip go to New Zealand, which had always been the top of my list. And it was just so beautiful. I knew that I just had to do more. And then when you do more, I'd come home, save some money. I usually would come home every summer and kind of work in this oyster bar called Car's Oyster Bar, which was an amazing job, but I'd work really hard. And then I would leave again because it was just so easy, and you just want more and more and more. And especially when I went over to Central America and I started to learn Spanish, I could actually understand them. So it opened a whole new door for me. So I'm traveling these countries, I'm speaking with the locals. I did couch surfing, so I'm living with the locals, speaking with the locals, doing everything. And it just was amazing. I couldn't have enough. Finally, I decided I did need a little break. Coincidentally, that's exactly when the pandemic started. So I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but I definitely will travel again in the future. And I recommend maybe not take 5 years off to travel, but I definitely recommend everyone do some sort of trip in their life. It just makes you so much more accepting. You learn so much about life and about yourself. And it was just amazing all around.
Now, you did mention that you're doing a lot of writing while you were doing your travels, but were you also doing performing in these different countries?
I wasn't doing so much as like paid performances, like your typical getting booked for a venue, but I definitely did some open mics. There was so many creative people I met while traveling. A lot of hostels would have guitars there. So kind of like impromptu performances where we would all kind of be jamming, some open mics. I would go to live music shows and then they would end up getting me to go up and sing some songs. So there's definitely a lot of music involved, but not so much myself.
Going from country to country, how different was the live music experience? Was there anything that kind of you sat there and said, I didn't know it could be like this?
Oh, so many times. Especially, again, coming from that small town, I didn't really have any idea about the world. Luckily, I adapt quickly, but just every country kind of had something different. Like, say, for example, I went to Peru and they actually had such a really cool jazz music scene there, which was really surprising. I got to see like really cool full live jazz bands, which was amazing, but they kind of put their own like Latin spin to it. Or in Colombia, I went to Carnival in Barranquilla, which is the second largest carnival. They literally just have parades and play music for a week straight. And they have the coolest sounds and the coolest instruments I never would have expected.
I'm going to put a hypothetical situation out there for you. You get the chance to grab your guitar and go play in any country, one show. Where are you going?
That is such a hard question. I think automatically my brain went to Australia. I think because number one, they love a good like folk rock band over there and they really love like singer-songwriters. And two, I think because I actually lived there for a year. I wasn't really at the point where I was doing live shows and stuff, unfortunately. So I kind of didn't get to do that. That's where I was doing a lot of the writing. So I would love to be able to just go back there. I have a lot of friends there and be able to play a really cool show.
Now, for anyone who's, just picking up or getting a chance to hear the songs off of Hit the Ground or to see some of your performances that are out there on YouTube, what's the takeaway that you hope that people are going to get from your original music?
Yeah, I just hope that they can all relate. I think that my songs deal with so many different emotions. Like I hope, for example, in my album Hit the Ground, I hope they can dance with Gingerbread Woman. I hope they can cry with When I See My Mama Crying. I hope they can really like think and reach out to people struggling when they listen to Poison. Each song kind of deals with a different theme, but they all somehow fit together. And I say, my album is a little bit messy, just like life and just like the emotions I deal with in the album.
Now, you've also taken some time over the past few months to put out some covers on YouTube, just like, kind of bare bones, guitar and vocals covers. What is it about a song that makes you want to take it and make it your own?
I really relate to the lyrics first in a song. I really like songs that kind of tell stories. Again, it all goes back to my storytelling past. And then from there, especially a few of the songs, I'm obsessed with a show called Nashville. And I just find that I relate with so many songs on that album. They're all kind of doing and living the dream that I someday hope to live. So they're all kind of emerging artists as well. So it's just things that I relate to.
Knowing that it's the lyrics that kind of draws you to a song, is that reflective of your songwriting? Like, what comes first for you, the riff or the lyrics?
The lyrics, for sure. My process of songwriting is I kind of just like strum random chords and kind of hear the words in my head, and then I'll like write the words out and kind of adjust the tune to it as I'm writing, as the lyrics kind of flow out of my brain.
You realize, of course, that brings us to the big question of the podcast. So if you, Kari Lyn, had to introduce yourself to a total stranger, but instead of saying, hi, I'm Kari Lyn, here's my album, it rocks, you hand them a mixtape. And on that tape are songs that tell the story of you. What songs are on that tape and why are those songs there?
All right. So number one, I've Been Everywhere, the Johnny Cash version, because I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan and I legit have been everywhere. I've been to 26 countries in total, and I definitely wanted to go to more. So that's the first one. The second one would be Crazy by Gnarls Barkley, because people say that I'm a little bit crazy for doing everything that I do. And I'm really like outgoing and I'm not afraid to kind of like do what I want. Like if I go to a live show and I want to dance, I just will dance and get everybody up and going crazy with me, I guess. Number three would be Way Too Pretty for Prison by Miranda Lambert. That one just because I just think it's such a great song and it kind of just talks about like being way too pretty for prison, like wanting to kind of get back at someone that did you wrong, but being like, no, okay, I'm going to let karma get them because I don't want to, mess with that. So I think that really describes how I kind of live my life. I think about the torture I would do to them, but really I just let life bite them in the bum, lack of a better expression. Next song would be It's a Long Way to the Top, AC/DC, because I feel like that's my journey right now. I want to rock and roll. I want to be a rock star. So I will get there someday. And I'm right now putting the work in to get there. And last song would be The Island Song by Zac Brown Band, representing being an island girl. And just the song is so happy and just exactly how I feel whenever I go back to Prince Edward Island.
Obviously, with the CRTV Awards coming up on the 17th, there's a lot of probably mental energy and efforts kind of focused on getting just to that day. But what's next? What comes after? Once the show's done, and as you said, the semester's done, what's next for you?
Yeah, so I want to do a lot of things. This past week has just been a lot of sleeping after school. I definitely have got some exciting things coming up with my music. The re-release of Hit the Ground. The EP is actually coming out in 2022 now. It's got pushed to January, but that's fine. We wanted to give time for Hit the Ground to kind of hit the ground. And definitely I've got some gigs coming up in Prince Edward Island in December. You heard it here first because I haven't even announced it yet, but I'll be playing in PEI in December, which is super exciting. I hopefully have some more live performances here in Toronto. I'm in the midst of doing a lot of organizing some more live performances with a few organizations. So just all things music. I'm really excited to kind of get out there and just start doing live music again.
Kari Lyn, thank you so much for this. Where can listeners find you out there on the internet, and how can they hear the music when it gets released?
Yeah, so all of my socials is at Kari Lyn Music. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on there, not so much, but I'll hopefully get there one day. And all my links are in the bio there. I have a website, karilynmusic.com. You can there's a hyper follow link there for my album on Spotify as well. So yeah, any of those ways, it's just KarilynMusic. And that's how you can find me. Also, make sure to check out the Confidential Records Instagram. Just search Confidential Records. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well.
Thank you so much for this. And to our listeners, thank you for listening to this episode of the Made You a Mixtape podcast. Now, if you're listening to us on any audio streaming service, you can actually watch this entire interview over on YouTube. But if you're watching this right now, hi, you can actually download this episode on the go and listen to us whenever and wherever you get your podcast. This has been Made You Mixtape. I'm your host, Jason. Until next time, take care.